Let's talk about women's rights. It's a topic that sparked debates, inspired movements, and changed the course of history. But why does it matter so much, and why do we keep coming back to it, generation after generation? For centuries, women were sidelined, expected to be daughters, wives, mothers, but rarely decision-makers. Their roles were often limited to the home, their ambitions boxed in by tradition and law. The world missed out on countless ideas, talents, and innovations simply because women weren't given a seat at the table. Imagine telling half your team to sit out and then wondering why you're not winning. That's what society did for generations, ignoring the potential of half its people. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. When women are excluded, everyone loses. But when women are empowered, entire communities thrive. Progress accelerates, creativity flourishes, and new solutions emerge to old problems. The fight for women's rights is about unlocking potential, letting everyone contribute, and making society smarter and fairer. It's about recognizing that every person, regardless of gender, has something valuable to offer. Every time a woman leads, invents, or chooses her own path, it's thanks to this ongoing struggle. These victories didn't just happen, they were fought for, step by step, by women and allies who refused to accept the status quo. It's not ancient history. It's why your mom, sister, or daughter can have a career or sign a contract today. The rights women have now were unimaginable just a few generations ago, and they're the result of courage, persistence, and solidarity. The story of women's rights is still being written, and we all have a part to play. Whether it's supporting a friend, challenging stereotypes, or standing up for equality, every action counts. So let's dive into how it all started, back when the idea of women voting was considered wild. The journey is far from over, but understanding where it began helps us see just how far we've come, and how much further we can go. Picture a time when women couldn't vote, when their voices were silenced not just at the ballot box, but in nearly every aspect of public life. Imagine living in a world where half the population was expected to simply accept decisions made for them, without any say in the laws or leaders that shaped their futures. Their opinions were dismissed, their concerns brushed aside, and their dreams for a better society often went unheard. Women were expected to remain in the background, their intelligence and abilities undervalued by those in power. The suffrage movement was about one thing, demanding the right to vote, but it was also about so much more. It was a fight for dignity, for equality, and for the recognition that women's voices mattered in shaping the world. Leaders like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton became the faces of this struggle. They organized rallies, wrote powerful speeches, and inspired thousands to join the cause. Their courage and determination lit a spark that would ignite a global movement. Suffragettes weren't just polite, they were bold, fearless, and willing to risk everything. They chained themselves to fences, marched through hostile crowds, and even went on hunger strikes in prison, refusing to be broken by injustice. For their efforts, they faced ridicule in the press, public scorn, and even arrest. Critics claimed women were too emotional, too fragile, or simply unfit for politics, but these women refused to be defined by stereotypes. Ironically, these same women managed households, balanced budgets, and made countless decisions every day. They proved, time and again, that they were more than capable of handling responsibility. In the UK, Emmeline Pankhurst rallied supporters with her famous motto, "Deeds, not words." She believed that action, not just talk, would bring about real change. Across continents, women organized letter-writing campaigns, lobbied politicians, and spoke passionately at rallies. Their relentless advocacy built momentum that could not be ignored. Their persistence paid off. In 1893, New Zealand became the first country to grant women the right to vote, setting a powerful example for the rest of the world. The United States followed in 1920, after decades of struggle, with the passage of the 19th Amendment. Women across the nation finally cast their ballots, celebrating a hard-won victory. Getting the vote was more than a legal change. It was a crack in the wall of inequality, transforming women from passive subjects into active citizens with a voice in their own destinies. The suffrage movement proved that when women unite and organize, they can challenge the status quo and change the course of history. The right to vote was just the beginning. It opened the door to new possibilities, inspiring future generations to keep pushing for equality and justice. The real work was only getting started. The Suffrage Saga reminds us that progress is possible when people refuse to give up, and that every voice, no matter how small, can help shape a better world. Winning the vote wasn't the finish line for American women. It was a hard-fought victory, but it didn't mean instant equality or opportunity. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new journey, a signal that women were ready to step into public life and demand more than just a voice at the ballot box. It was the starting gun, firing off a race toward broader freedoms and new possibilities. The world was changing, and women were determined to be part of that change. The 1920s brought the flapper, bold, independent, and ready to break the mold. These women cut their hair, shortened their skirts, and challenged the old rules about how women should behave. They danced, they laughed, and they made it clear that a new era had arrived. More women started working outside the home, taking jobs as secretaries, teachers, and telephone operators. But even as they entered the workforce, their roles were often limited to what society considered women's work. The glass ceiling was firmly in place, and most doors to higher positions remained closed. Then, World War II changed everything. With millions of men overseas, women stepped up to fill jobs that had always been off limits. They ran factories, built planes, and kept the country moving. Suddenly, women were essential to the nation's survival. They proved they could do any job, not just fill in. Women learned new skills, took on tough assignments, and showed the world that they were just as capable as men. Their confidence grew, and so did their ambitions. But when the war ended, many women were pushed back into the kitchen, expected to return to traditional roles. Yet, the taste of independence and achievement lingered. They had seen what they could do, and they weren't about to forget it. In the 1950s, women began to question why their opportunities should shrink just because the men were home. They gathered in living rooms, read about new ideas, and quietly started to organize. The seeds of change were being planted. The post-war era set the stage for a new fight, not just for jobs but for real equality. Women wanted more than a paycheck. They wanted respect, advancement, and the chance to shape their own futures. The door to the workforce was open, and women were determined to keep it that way. They walked through it with purpose, knowing that every step forward mattered for the next generation. The next wave was coming, a movement that would demand not just entry, but equality, recognition, and lasting change. Historians talk about the women's movement in waves. The first wave, suffrage, winning the vote. The second wave, in the 1960s and 70s, was about equal pay, education, and control over their own bodies. The personal is political became the rallying cry. The third wave, in the 1990s, embraced diversity, recognizing that race, class, and sexuality shape women's experiences. It was about many voices, not just one. Now the fourth wave is powered by the internet. Social media movements like #MeToo spread globally in hours, calling out injustice in real time. Today's feminism tackles harassment, workplace inequality, and more. Each wave built on the last, pushing the movement forward. The tide of progress keeps rolling in, and the beach? Still not relaxing. With the basics won, the fight expanded everywhere. Equal pay became a rallying point. Why should women earn less for the same work? Laws like the Equal Pay Act and Title IX opened doors in work and education. Women pushed into fields once closed to them: science, law, medicine. The home became a battleground too. Issues like domestic violence and reproductive rights moved into the spotlight. Feminists fought for shelters, legal protections, and the right to control their own bodies. Access to contraception and safe, legal abortion gave women new autonomy. These victories let women build lives on their own terms. Each fight, at work, at school, at home, built a more just world. The puzzle of equality was coming together. The 21st century brought a digital revolution to women's rights. Social media became a megaphone for voices once silenced. The #MeToo movement, started by Tarana Burke, exploded in 2017. Millions shared stories of harassment and assault. It exposed a systemic problem, not just isolated incidents. #MeToo toppled powerful men, changed workplace policies, and shifted the blame from victims to perpetrators. Survivors found solidarity and strength in numbers. Activists now use digital tools to fight for reproductive rights, equal pay, and representation. Online campaigns, crowdfunding, and education reach millions instantly. You don't need to be famous to start a movement, just connected. Digital feminism is fast, loud, and always evolving. The journey for equality is moving at lightning speed. Looking back, the progress is undeniable. Women vote, lead, and break barriers everywhere. But the journey isn't over. The gender pay gap, underrepresentation and violence still exist. The fight for reproductive rights continues. Each generation builds on the last, making the movement more inclusive and global. There's no one-size-fits-all feminism. True equality means liberation for all women. The story of women's rights is about hope, perseverance and change. The rights we have were won through sacrifice. The journey continues, and it's up to all of us to keep pushing forward. The future is unwritten. Let's make it a good one.